Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today we have another powerful lesson in creating a prosperity mindset taken from Howard E. Hill's book, How to Think Like a Millionaire and Get Rich. We have covered a variety of lessons so far in this book that have really been very powerful and helpful. We have the episode on how to make the law of accrual work for you, how to develop a money consciousness, how to engage the success cycle, what the attitude of expectancy will do for you. Each of these have carried very powerful, unique information that I find very helpful. Howard E. Hill was a very interesting, I gave a little more of his bio in previous episodes, but Howard Hill was a very fascinating self-help teacher that was related to William Randolph Hearst and helped create the Golden Globes, among other things. And I find that his wisdom in particular in teaching the different ways that you can create prosperity is very helpful. Now in this one, we're talking about an important skill that I have found universal among the different millionaires and highly successful people that I have modeled. One quality with all of them is decisiveness. They make decisions quickly and properly, and there's a certain quality of decisiveness in their decision making. And I was excited because Howard Hill addresses this in his book, How to Develop the Quality of Decisiveness. When you hit on target with the right idea and then proceed to set your bright new concept in motion, you will quickly learn that it is almost as difficult to control the flood of incoming money as it was to get started your way in the beginning. However, in learning to think like a millionaire, there are certain modifiers that inevitably come into contention. These modifiers are other people. This stark reality of existence must be faced with equanimity and absorbed before too much progress can be achieved. Unfortunately, there are still too many persons who operate according to the law of the jungle. Everything and everybody is fair game for the daring, and on ad nauseum. And I wouldn't have it any other way, since this is the lifeblood of the competitive free enterprise system. I'm fully aware that we will hear yelps of dissent from the weak, the lazy, the incompetent, and the fuzzy thinking, but the facts still remain the same. We can only grow and expand with the rough and tumble friction of strong rivalry, regardless of whether it is honest, devious, malicious, crooked, or destructive. This may be a harsh estimate of our way of life, but we are not truly thinking like millionaires until we can accept these vagaries as part of our life. I know how devastating this can be to a young man or woman just out of college, where good sportsmanship is stressed and the competitive spirit encouraged as valid preparation for our life experiences. But we soon learn that this attitude dissolves in the operation of business, politics, religion, and the professions. I know because I have sat in the councils of all these groups. And again, I would have it no other way, for out of such apparent negative activities, we can find eventually a manner of living that will help us to gain our destiny. The trick, or devices, if we can so describe them, is for us to learn to protect ourselves in the clinches, for they will come just as surely as we know the sun will come up over the eastern horizon in the morning. The first of the precepts that we must come to know intimately is the quality of decisiveness, the ability to say yes at the right time and then move into action with everything we've got, or the gumption to say no under high-pressure tactics and make our decisions stick. In this latter connection, it will help a lot to know that whenever a salesman begins to apply overly strong closing techniques, you must realize instantly that the good he promises is for himself and not for you. Decisions. Through the years, a great deal of offbeat humor has been directed toward the need to make decisions. Actually, the special knack of reaching valid and supportable conclusions comes from 3 easy mental movements. These are 1. Listening. 2. Probing for facts by raising questions for discussion. 3. Sorting and evaluating the information that is gathered. Any other procedure is sheer sophistry. Just as there are basic qualities that reveal a person who is going places, so are there certain characteristics that conspire in a positive manner to make a man or woman stand out head and shoulders above the commonplace. These special attributes are always immediately recognizable in individuals with whom you come in contact. In fact, it is almost invariably possible to estimate a person's ability to be decisive by his appearance. The opposite of decisiveness. When a man, woman, or adolescent is obviously a nonconformist, bent on expressing his precious individuality, it is always safe bet that he has a scattered mentality. The quality of decisiveness evolves only from the normal human expression. Any tendency to belittle accepted patterns of conduct simply exposes a flagrant disregard for the rights of others, obvious feelings of inferiority, and a discourtesy that is little short of primitive. In time, we will come to have rehabilitation centers for this type of offbeat character. The 5 fundamentals of decisiveness. Now that we have the negative aspects of the ability to reach valid conclusions out of the way, let us learn the quick and easy guides to firm and purposeful resolves. Since we already know that the art and skill of making decisions that will stand up derives from listening, we will now consider the several attributes that tend to support this immensely valuable trait. 1. It has often been said that the strong feature of this special quality is a genuine pose of crispness in manners of speech, conduct, attitudes, and conclusions. 2. A firm, long-range goal of accomplishment that tends to reveal the outward characteristics of a person who is going places. 3. An individual who always seems to exemplify a positive regard for himself and his environment. 4. A person who regards progress, tempered with a high degree of discernment, supported by facts as a way of life. 5. The ability to view himself and the situation in which he finds himself with cool detachment. The story of Joe. I first knew Joe as the husband of a very promising writer. At the time, he was ramrodding a live gang of grips in one of the major studios. It was well known around the lot that whenever Joe was in charge of things, lights and camera equipment would be in the right place and at the right time. His ability to make lightning decisions bordered on the fantastic. This man always hits the deck at the precise moment set down on his call sheet, and without a moment's hesitation began to give directions to his crew in words that left no doubt as to his meaning. But the real test of his ability to make right decisions hit him one morning like a bolt out of nowhere. He had set his equipment according to plan, and all of his lights were in the right place, when all of a sudden, Lana Turner and the late John Hodiak developed a little hassle over who should get the favored lighting. With this kind of temperamental situation, it wasn't long until things were getting slightly out of hand. So much so, in fact, that Louis B. Mayer, directing genius of the vast studio complex, came blasting to the set with cold blue fire in his eyes. At a cost of $1,000 a minute, I can't say that I blamed him, but in 3 short minutes I learned why these 2 men were tops in their respective jobs. Mayer demanded of Joe, "What goes?" Most men would have crumpled under this demand from the top man, but not Joe. He responded without hesitation, "We get the best all-around lighting effects the way I have the lights set up." The director agreed, and Mayer snapped, "Leave it to the way it is and get going." And the way he said it left no doubt in anybody's mind what he meant. Later, during a 10-minute break, I asked Joe how he could be so sure of himself with all that glamour and brass hanging on his words. "Easy," he replied. "The night before I take the time to go over the next day's shooting schedule. I review the set, the dialogue, and what the script calls for. Then, when I set my lights according to directions, I have no problems." The moral to this story is simply this: know where you are going and then go there. It is as simple as that. The quality of decisiveness can only evolve from one source: right information correctly evaluated. Always expect the unexpected and be prepared. There are many ways to brace for any eventuality, but probably the most unique I ever encountered was one devised by Bill Pullman, a chap I had in one of my classes in management. It seems that Bill had been thrown for a severe loss in one of his ventures, and the cause of his upset developed from a source he had least expected, a friend. Apparently, the so-called buddy was all eaten up inside over the progress that Bill was making, so he pulled the plug on Bill in the most vulnerable part of his carefully laid plans. When the debris was cleared away, Bill was out of a job and the complainer was elevated to head clerk in his department. From this point, Bill kept watch of all the rat holes in any new idea that he formulated. How he accomplished this purpose bordered on the humorous at times, but his preoccupation with what might happen paid off handsomely for him. Here's how he did it. Whenever he took on a new project, Bill would take several days to list all the things that might upset his well-laid plans. This procedure accomplished two valuable purposes. It not only spotlighted the good features of his program, but it also served to show up starkly clear any weaknesses that had been overlooked. Sometimes his list of supposes would grow to 25 or 30 items, but when Bill had completed his stand-off-and-look inventory, he was a very confident man. Throughout each day of his developing programs, he was enabled to move with deliberate speed toward his goal. As each new step in his plan of action was ready, he was in a position to make his next decisive move with a boldness of spirit that brooked no challenge. Today, Bill is president of his own prosperous company. While it is unquestionably true that there is a certain magic in thinking big, it is equally true that the man or woman who thinks in terms of attaining great wealth always takes time to look beyond the obvious. On the face of it, this might appear to be unnecessary precaution. But if the plan insurance is good enough for smart and decisive military leaders, it is certainly good enough to be used in the highly competitive area of big business. Smart strategists in the armed forces always have complete and ready Plan A and Plan B and so on until the list of possible counteractions is exhausted. 5 ways to sustain the trait of decisiveness. Regardless of whether you are buying a piece of land for an investment, a home for your family, a new car, or you're projecting yourself into the future with a carefully thought out 1-year, 5-year, or 10-year plan, there are certain fundamentals that must be observed in each of these moves. Should you leave any one of them to chance, you are leaving a hole in the dike that could very easily drain off years of preparation and hard work. You can avoid this calamity by measuring your plans against this set of guidelines. 1. Know that knowledge is power. When a man or woman can comprehend the one basic fact that the quality of decisiveness is founded upon facts, carefully collected, sorted, and evaluated, the next logical step is wide open for use. 2. Be an expert in something, regardless of what it is. When you can come to know all there is to know about one given subject, you've laid the solid rock groundwork for doing whatever you do with neatness and dispatch. Here's the story of Jim Knowles. Because of family producing over his grades, Jim lost interest in school about midway through his junior year in high school, and that was it. After about 3 years of hard labor in the construction industry, Jim began to take stock of himself. The need for more education was all too apparent. If he was going to escape the humdrum existence he had bought for himself, when September rolled around, Jim enrolled in 4 classes in the adult evening school. One of the courses offered was instruction in public speaking. This interested him even though the very idea of getting on his feet to talk in front of a group of people actually terrified him. Since his efforts to take part in the prepared speech part of the program was usually confined to a series of ums, ahs, and wells, he managed to avoid as many of the assignments as he could, but there was one part of the instruction that interested him. Why, he didn't know, but the precise rulings of parliamentary procedures snagged his attention. Jim practically memorized the step-by-step processes by which formal business and legislative meetings are guided. Before too long, he found himself taking an active role in this part of his class work. His fear of getting on his feet slipped away as he became an expert in the adroit use of the rules and devices employed by the opposition in order to circumvent the plans and purposes of his side of the aisle. As he gained in parliamentary know-how, his ability to speak in public increased steadily. As he grew in these skills, he developed an interest in politics, To further his interest, he registered to vote and joined the party organization of his political faith, and promptly went to work with real zest. It wasn't long until Jim was recognized as a person worth watching. In the meantime, his work had improved to such an extent that he advanced from a mere laborer to a minor office job in the building firm that employed him. There came a day when the local politicians who had been left off the gravy train moved in on his employers with the obvious intent to destroy. In the publicly aired hassle that ensued, Jim voluntarily acquitted himself so capably that the very real opposition took cover. As a result of this unexpected display of talents by a mere clerk, he was promptly promoted to contracts, and from here on his career was a little short of meteoric, all because he followed his special interests and became an expert in something. 3. Obviously, the next logical step is to learn the art of public speaking, not because there is presently much need for silver-tongued orators, but for the plain reason that in the skills that must be gained in public speaking can be found the roots of decisiveness. 4. Take a course in logic. If this instruction is lacking in your community, go to the library and get a book on the subject. When this isn't possible, sign up for a course in plane geometry. The goal here is to learn the steps that produce logical thinking, and with the trait of logical thinking added to one's abilities, the characteristic of decisiveness grows and expands as an attribute in your way of doing things. 5. Learn to schedule your work. Plan all of your activities in the most efficient manner. Review the 10th step covering the use of time. Find an economic need and fill it. In no other country in this crazy mixed-up world, and at no other time in the vagrant history of man, have the chances of becoming a millionaire been so good, or the trend of events offered so many opportunities to gain great wealth. It is fantastic. There's very little in this world that does not respond to a definiteness of purpose. And this one powerful additive to the total personality tends to impart an aura of preciseness in a manner that can be acquired in no other way. Actually, when you get right down to basic cause, purpose is the first common denominator in the search for success. When the fact of determined intent is included in the human expression, and at this moment we are thinking of yours in particular, there is no place to go but up. With this priceless ingredient made a part of your planned program of growth, the next step is to find a need in a category of activity and fill it with imagination tempered only with a decent regard for the practical aspects of your innovation. Within the week, 3 way-out plans and devices that are making their creators wealthy have come to my attention. The first one was a newly developed electronic computer system that will eliminate the need to carry cash for any purpose. The initial tryout of this service will be in the giant California World's Fair that will be staged right here in Riverside. The idea of electronic currency may be nationwide by the time the book is released. The inventor, Dr. Melvin E. Selvison, claims many exciting uses will be made of his brainchild, but I can see very clearly that the days of pickpockets, hold-up men, and bank robbers are numbered by this device. In another instance, a 2-point combination lock on the dashboard of a car, a simple device that can be installed quite inexpensively at the factory, can reduce car thefts almost to zero. The big idea here is that when the ignition is turned off, the only way the car can again be started is for the driver to dial to points 1 and 2 with the sequence of numbers known only to himself before his key can start the motor. With the third example, the privacy of the bathroom has been invaded, this time by a device by the unlikely name of bidet, pronounced bidet. This contraption eliminates the use of toilet paper and substitutes a fast wash and dry system. This small appliance can be attached in minutes to any ordinary toilet seat and plugged into the nearest electrical outlet. Many unusual claims are made for the gadget, but perhaps the most startling is the way it is supposed to perform the quick and sanitary functions of feminine hygiene. Quite obviously, the persons who have perfected these ideas have created something far more important. For example, new protections, services, and convenience have been added to our way of life. Productive wealth has been achieved simply by creating more jobs, and with this advance, the purchasing power of many individuals has been greatly increased. With this growth and earning potential pushing at the outstretched seams of our economy, it should be obvious to any thinking person that we are confronted with opportunities unlimited, especially when you take a moment to contemplate the fact that the three ideas I have just described are repeated in different ways on an average of 5,600 times each year, and that these basic devices and plans are again multiplied at least 7 times the following year. I often wonder why anyone with an ounce of guts can avoid being hit with $1 million enterprise. During the 2 years that I collected material for this book, my own eyes have been opened so wide that I am completely flabbergasted. So many available ideas, plans, and devices have come to my attention that I sometimes feel as if I have a private key to the treasure vaults of the world. The only restraining influence is the simple fact that at my time of life, I am doing the one thing I've always wanted to do, and that after all is my accomplishment. Enough. But you with 10, 20, or even 40 productive years ahead of you should take a headlong dive into a rich and rewarding future, overflowing with wealth, achievement, or the personal satisfaction of service to mankind. As of today, the choice is yours. Howard Hill is a very good starting place on the discussion of decisiveness, but there's so much more that you can understand and do in order to be decisive. What I have found is that instinct and intuition tend to be most accurate when you make your decision quickly. Your first instinct is always the best. Thus, the more decisive you are, the more accurate you are in your decisions. You can even test this. Choose the next month to make your decisions within 3 seconds, good or bad. If you find yourself stuck in a situation, perhaps you have a house that you want to buy or sell, and you're taking days or months to make that decision, there is something wrong in your decision-making process, and it may be a sign of blocks that you have to your prosperity. So there are some things that you can do to become more decisive. First of all, think about why you're hesitant. First, understand why you're reluctant to make a decision. Then, develop strategies to overcome that reluctance. For example, if your role involves important decisions and you feel inexperienced, you might learn how others made similar decisions. If you're hesitating because of negative consequences after an earlier decision, work to process that event and recognize that each decision is a new opportunity to succeed. Secondly, be open to change. If you're developing a new strategy or pattern for being decisive, it's important to open to new ways of doing things. As your decisiveness improves, you may find yourself in new situations or embracing greater responsibilities. Being open to new results and consequences can help you more easily adjust to making more decisions and seeing your surroundings change. 3, make specific goals. Think about why you want to gain decision-making skills. Then make goals to measure your own progress and success. It may be as simple as aiming to take less time deciding on your lunch order at the deli. If you're taking on a new role at work, think about specific things that you aim to do after a week, a month, or quarter. If you're looking to take greater control of a current situation, envision what success would be and make incremental goals to get there. From these goals, you might create a written strategy or plan, including how you will counteract any hesitancy or fear, and how your decision-making skills can help you improve in other areas of your life. Fourth, find a decision-making model. A role model can make it easier for you to learn a new skill, so you may choose someone to emulate. You can consider coworkers, professional mentors, authors who have found career success, a leader in your industry, an innovator in the modern workforce. Think about what that person prioritizes and what knowledge might help them feel prepared when they make judgment calls. If it's someone you know, you might arrange a meeting to learn their perspective and advice. 5, preparation. Prepare yourself. When you know a decision is coming, it's possible to prepare in advance by researching your options. Knowledge about the possibilities can increase your security in case the situation changes or the deadline comes sooner than you expected. Thinking about significant decisions in advance may also give you the time to seek perspectives from others, which is especially important if you're making decisions that impact their work, environment, or options. 6, practice evaluating options before you have to make your decision. Develop your ability to decide. It may be useful to practice thinking about decisions strategically. Start with one decision that has no deadline and try to make a mental or paper list of the advantages and disadvantages quickly of each option. As you strengthen this skill, you may find that you can understand the pros and cons almost instantaneously. 7. Spend less time on small decisions. I believe there is something called a decision energy. And so if you are making small decisions throughout the day on what you're going to eat and what you're going to wear, you lose some of that decision-making energy. So I try to save my decision-making energy. I have certain clothes that I wear every day, certain things I do every day that help me to eliminate making small decisions all day long. Spending longer on large decisions like job or life choices can be beneficial, of course, but the consequences for a menu of choices are usually less severe than decisions about what job to take or which career to pursue. Before investing significant time into a decision, consider how important it is. 8. Evaluate the results of your decisions. Go back after you make a decision, evaluate whether it was the right one. You can consider personal consequences, business and team consequences, and later opportunities that your choice provided. Think about how you approached the decision, and if you feel you made an incorrect choice, make a plan for what you're going to do differently the next time. And 9, be optimistic afterward. You're still creating your reality, so be optimistic. Being optimistic after you make your decision can be a good way to reward yourself for making decisions and accepting results. To apply your optimism practically, consider each possible outcome and then think of one positive result. Even a negative outcome may be useful to you since it gives you feedback to make better decisions in the future. 10. Forgive yourself. Oftentimes I find people that haven't forgiven themselves and it delays their ability to make decisions quickly. As you work towards goals, recognize that progress involves setbacks and forgive yourself for decisions you've made in the past. Don't let the mistakes of the past guide the decisions you make in the future because they will always be incorrect. The past is only an instructor, but don't let the emotions of it limit you. 11. Accept the limits of your control and knowledge. As you learn to make decisions, recognize that you may never have all the information you need to make a perfect decision. Being proactive about the decisions in the workplace or at home can be beneficial, but you're still working with your clients, co-workers, or family. Others' choices and external factors may influence or counteract the effects of your choices. Learning to make decisions is a process rather than a single choice, so it's important to put your choices into context and continue to make better ones. When you make a decision and truly commit, you can overcome every obstacle. By committing to a decision, you're making a statement. You're telling the world this is how it's going to be. Knowing how to be decisive projects confidence and charisma, and it's a trait of the true leader. We can get so caught up in the desire to make the right decision that we end up making no decision at all. Learning how to be more decisive, however, takes effort and a level of commitment all its own. How many times have you thought to yourself, I'll do this, only to second guess your decision, eventually backing away from making a decision at all? There's no way to go through life. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped, as Tony Robbins says, and we all want to shape our own destinies. Why is it important to be decisive? We make decisions every day: what to wear, what to eat, who to associate with, and how to relax. Those are easy decisions that are often determined by our habits, saving our brain power for the decisions that really matter. It is these big, bold decisions that affect the entire trajectory of our lives. Learning how to be decisive when it matters leads us down a path of confidence, fulfillment, and joy, while being indecisive will cause us uncertainty, pain, and suffering. So what makes you decisive? Being decisive isn't about always being right. It's about knowing that even when you're wrong, you will come out a better person. You learn a lesson, feed your mind, and get back and keep going. That's why the number one trait that makes a decisive person is confidence, a deep belief in themselves and their ability. They tend to make up their minds quickly and stick with their opinions. And this trait is unique among millionaires, billionaires, people that are wealthy. I would say that you need to overcome your fears. A big problem in becoming decisive is also overcoming your fears. If you're wanting how to become decisive, look at what you're fearing. This fear can be destructive and paralyzing and can slow you down. Stop overanalyzing. You're not alone. No one is completely certain of everything all the time. Those who have learned how to be decisive are just as uncertain or nervous as you. They're just willing to make the choice. So stop overanalyzing. Maybe the decision they make turns out to be wrong. So what? They can learn from the wrong decision, and they can usually learn quickly. A poor decision leads to a better one down the road. Visualize the outcome. Visualization is often used in setting and achieving goals, and you can apply it in making decisions. After you make the decision and before, visualize the outcome that you want. You set in motion the powers of reality creation, and that's what we're trying to do. Visualize the outcome. Don't chase perfection. You're not going to be perfect. Every choice doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be right all the time. That is not your goal. To be decisive, you must set bold goals. You must be bold in what you want to do, and then decisively move towards it, and take massive action after you've made your decision. The decision is only the beginning. You must take massive action. A real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken a new action. If there's no action, you haven't truly decided. So I want you to ponder on this. How you make your decisions, how long you take. Are you indecisive? Has that affected your life? Has it affected your prosperity? And evaluate the way you make those decisions, and understand that you can change it for the better if you understand the importance of the way of making decisions in the right way and how to be decisive. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. I'd love it if you checked out my art. You can find it at newearth.art. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.